Growing up, every kid is taught what to do when it comes to them encountering a stranger. Don't talk to them, don't take anything from them, and probably the most important rule of them all, don't get into a vehicle with them. It's October 10th, and this is the month that all of the kids in my neighborhood look forward to. Not only because Halloween is in a few weeks, but because my neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Miller, drive their van around our neighborhood every afternoon after school, handing out free candy to all of the kids who get off of the bus. I know that it probably sounds pretty creepy, but everyone in town knows them, and they are two of the sweetest people you'll ever meet. They've been doing it for years now. Well, as long as I've lived here, maybe even before that. All of the parents frown upon them giving out candy to their kids all month long, but they know that they don't mean any harm by it. They just really love Halloween. Their house is always the best decorated on the block, and the first one that kids rush to on Halloween night. They always have some kind of a surprise waiting for us. One year, they even turned the inside of their house into a haunted maze. They decorate inside and out with lights, carved pumpkins, scary music, and Halloween blow-ups cover one half of their yard while the other half is decorated to look like a cemetery. I can't wait to see what they do this year. "What kind of candy did you get?" I questioned my buddy Garrett. As he unzips his backpack wide enough for me to peek inside, he answers, "All of the good stuff." There is an assortment of candy bars on display, and just like he said, it is all of the good stuff. Snickers, Milky Way, Hershey's chocolate bars, you name it, he has it. "Can I have one?" I ask as I reach inside. I grab a Reese's and eat one, then wrap the other back in the package and stash it in my lunchbox for later. When my pal Dennis gets on the bus at the next stop, he sits down across from Garrett and me and opens up his backpack to reveal a load of candy too. Now I'm really jealous. His bag is filled with boxes of candy. You know, the ones they sell at the movie theaters for quadruple the prices in the store. He's got M&Ms, Swedish Fish, Bunch of Crunch, and my favorite, Sour Patch Kids. Without me even having to ask, he hands the box over with a smile. "How did you get candy?" I question. He doesn't live in the same neighborhood as Garrett and I. He lives a few blocks away, in the really nice neighborhood with the mansions. "I got it when I went to Garrett's to spend the night Friday after school," Dennis replies. I was invited to go too, but wasn't able to because I had to go to some family event that my dad's job was throwing. The two of them ride the bus home from school every day, but I stay after 3 days a week to attend band practice. I play the clarinet. The other 2 days, my neighbor, Mr. Keller, picks me up from school and babysits me until my parents get off of work. So I rarely get to take the bus home after school. I hope I'll get to ride it home a few days this month. Dennis says, "My mom was mad when I came home with all of this. She thinks it's kind of weird that your neighbors drive around just handing out candy to a bunch of kids." "Well, do you want it or not?" I tease, snatching an open box of Butterfinger Bites out of his hands. He seizes it back, spilling a few. "Of course I want it." Garrett butts in and answers, "They're just being nice. I've known them ever since my family moved here. They've never tried to kidnap us or anything crazy like that. Even if they attempted something, I could outrun them," he tells us with a laugh. "Are you sure about that?" I joke. Garrett isn't fat by any means, but he's what I'd call a little on the pudgy side when it comes to kids our age. The three of us have been friends for a few years now, and he was skinny when we first met. He just started to gain a significant amount of weight over the past year. His face flushes with embarrassment at my joke. I didn't say it loud enough for anyone else to hear, but I still feel bad. So I begin to apologize just as the bus comes to a halt in front of the school, but he quickly changes the subject. I'm the first one off of the bus, and I'm greeted by the harsh, frigid autumn air. It bites at my exposed skin, leaving it red and cold. The three of us race inside to our third-grade classroom. Our teacher, Miss Stuckey, is waiting at the door, greeting each of us with a warm smile as we enter. After removing my coat, gloves, and hat, I settle in my seat and patiently wait for class to start. Dennis sits down in his seat beside me, but in the next aisle over. At first glance, he appears to be a rather normal 8-year-old boy. Nothing about his appearance stands out. He's a little shorter than average, his hair is soft and dark brown, and he keeps it cut short like most boys. He wears plain, solid-colored shirts and pants every single day. Nothing cool like the stuff I wear with the sports team logos or superheroes on them. But he's far from normal. His dad plays professional baseball, so his family has lots of money. He just doesn't like for anyone to know about it. He says that he doesn't want people to treat him differently just because his family is rich. So me and Garrett are the only ones he has told since he moved here 3 years ago. The only reason he goes to public school with us instead of some fancy private school is because his dad says he went to public school growing up and it builds character. A little while after class begins, a wintry mix of rain and snow start to fall outside the window. And around 10 a.m. while we are finishing up our art projects, an announcement is made that we will be dismissed early today. The class erupts in cheers. There's nothing better than a snow day, whether it be going home early or not coming in at all. It's unusual to have one in October. We usually don't get those until late November, early December, but I'm not complaining. Today was supposed to be band practice after school, but it's been canceled, so I assume Mr. Keller will be picking me up, unless Mom or Dad get sent home from work early too. Just as everyone is packing up and getting ready to be dismissed around noon, the classroom telephone rings. My teacher informs me that my mom called the school and that I'm supposed to ride the bus home today and head straight to Mr. Keller's house. I'm not sure why he can't pick me up here at the school like he always does, but I'm actually a little excited that I get to ride the bus home. Maybe I can get some candy from the Millers. Then I won't have to bother Garrett or Dennis for theirs. I'll have my very own stash. Do you think they'll know that we're coming home early today? I asked Garrett. I don't know, he answers, shrugging his shoulders, not seeming to care whether they do or not. Of course he doesn't care. He already has a huge stash of his own, I think to myself. We slip and slide trying to get to our bus's designated spot in the parking lot. Garrett stays pretty quiet on the ride home. I think he's still mad at me because of that comment I made about his weight this morning on the bus. The bus drops off Dennis first, then makes its way to our bus stop at the mailboxes of our community. We exit the bus along with some other kids from the neighborhood and then cross the street and begin to walk home. Just as we make it to where we go our separate ways, Garrett blurts out, "There it is," as he points toward a burgundy van coming down the street playing Halloween music. All of the kids from the bus gather at the corner of the street and wait for the van to stop. I get excited as it pulls up to where we're patiently waiting. The slogan "Free Candy" is written across both sides in white paint. The van looks more raggedy and rusty than I remember. There are dusty handprints all over the sides of it, probably from all of the kids who have leaned up against it in anticipation of free candy. The windows are dark, you can barely see inside. All I can make out is that there are two figures in there, but I can't see their faces until the passenger side window is rolled down. Mrs. Miller sticks her head out the window and waves at us. Her long curly white hair is tied up in a bun at the back of her head in a desperate attempt to hide an obvious bald spot. One of her eyes is a dark gray, cloudy color because she's partially blind. Her thin, almost non-existent lips part as she smiles, revealing a mouth with only a few yellow teeth. "Who wants candy?" she asks in a low, croaky voice. The kids around me unzip and hold open their backpacks, then move closer to the van. One by one, Mrs. Miller drops a handful into each one of their bags. When it's my turn, I approach the van holding my book bag open. "Hey, Robert, I haven't seen you around in a while," Mr. Miller, who is sitting in the driver's seat, points out. I reply, "I don't usually take the bus home. I only ride it in the mornings." I lean forward and hold my bag a little closer for Mrs. Miller to toss the candy in, but she just continues to stare at me for a moment. "We have your favorite. If I remember correctly, it's Sour Patch Kid you like, isn't it?" I nod my head. Finally, she reaches into her grocery bag full of candy and places a heaping handful into my backpack. A wide grin spreads across both of our faces. I step aside so that Garrett can have his turn, even though he doesn't need any more candy. He already has plenty. As we step back onto the sidewalk and begin to walk away, Mrs. Miller tells us to hold on a minute. My son is coming home in a few days for a visit. I want you kiddos to meet him. I talk about you guys to him all the time. I answer with a smile, sure, we'd love to meet him, and thanks for the candy. As they begin to drive away, she yells, and remember, every day in October is Halloween. See you all tomorrow. I head straight to Mr. Keller's house. The reason he couldn't pick me up from school early today is because he had a doctor's appointment, so that's why Mom told me to ride the bus home. He asks me who that was in the van that I was talking to. He must have been watching from his window. That was just Mr. and Mrs. Miller handing out candy to all of us kids. My stash lasts me a couple of days before it starts to dwindle. Then one morning on the bus, Garrett tells me that the Millers have been asking about me. He says they want to know when I'm coming around again. He tells me excitedly, they want you to meet their son, and they said they have more candy, boxes of it, and they're going to be waiting for us when we get off of the bus after school today. Can you get me some? I beg. He says that he'll try. The next morning, I walk to the bus stop anticipating my candy from Garrett. He has candy, but none for me. Here, you can have some of mine. I take a few candy bars and thank him, but I want some of my own. Did you tell them that you wanted some for me? I ask. Yes, I told them that you had to stay after school for band practice and you wanted me to get you some candy. But you know they only give out a handful, and they only had enough for the kids that were there, he answers. Then Garrett says, you know, sometimes they ride around a little later in the day. I complain, yeah, I know, but Mom or Dad always pick me up after band practice, and then I have to come straight home and do my homework. And when Mr. Keller watches me after school, he has strict orders from my parents. I'm not allowed to play outside until they get home from work. I'll never get any free candy, I whine. Then to my surprise, that Wednesday I get called to the office. The secretary hands me the phone. It's my mom, and she tells me that I need to ride the after-school bus home tonight after band practice. She has to work late, and Dad is out of town on a business trip, so I need to go to Mr. Keller's house again tonight. When the bus drops me off that evening, it's already dark out, so I'm surprised to see the Miller's van still driving around. I've never noticed them out this late before. It starts to slow down as it gets closer to me, then it stops right in the middle of the street. I remove my backpack from my back and approach the driver's side window, waving. It rolls down after a minute, and I'm surprised to see someone other than Mr. Miller driving. A man that I've never seen before is sitting behind the wheel. He's a young guy, looks to be in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. He's wearing a navy blue and white plaid sweater vest. His blonde hair is parted down the middle and neatly combed. He seems like a very proper, clean-cut guy, until he smiles, revealing a set of crooked, rotten teeth. The type of teeth with a yellow tint to them, and white plaque buildup at the very top of each one. You must be Robert. It's nice to finally meet you. My name is Jonathan. I'm the Miller's son, he says with a big grin. Would you like some candy? You like Sour Patch Kids, right? He asks me. When I don't respond, he continues, my parents talk about you all of the time. That's how I know what your favorite candy is. They talk about all of you kids. So would you like some candy? He asks again. Yes, please, I reply, holding open my backpack. Unexpectedly, the man unbuckles his seatbelt, then opens his door and steps out of the van. When he notices the look of uncertainty on my face, he tells me that the candy is in the back. I know that my parents only give out a handful, but they said since they don't see you as often as all of the other kids, you can have as much as you want. Then he walks around to the back of the van and unlocks the doors. I follow him and see boxes upon boxes full of candy. Every kind you can imagine. I hold open my bag for the man, but he insists, go ahead, climb in and take whatever you want. My face lights up with excitement as I make my way into the back and start grabbing handfuls from each box. The Sour Patch Kids are over there, way in the back. There's a box full of them, he tells me, pointing at a big box behind all of the smaller ones. So I ease my way back there, and when I lift the lid of the box, I'm surprised to see that it's not full of candy like the others. There is a roll of black tape and a rope inside. My heart begins to race. All of the excitement I previously felt is gone. I have a feeling that I should have never gotten into the van. I turn around to thank the man and tell him that I have enough, but just as I do, I see a sinister grin on his face, and then he slams and locks the door. "What are you doing?" I scream as I furiously bang on the door and walls. "Let me out!" Just as the van peels off, I jerk forward and slam into the doors. I stand up to look out the window and see Mr. Keller come out onto his front porch. He peers into the darkness. He must be looking for me. I pound on the door louder. The windows in the back are covered with newspaper, but from the outside, it must be glued or taped on. I can only see through a tiny little hole where the newspaper must have ripped. Tears begin to fall down my cheeks. I tumble back and forth to each side of the van every time he makes a turn. I can hear the man talking to himself up front, and then he begins to laugh. I scream at him, "Please let me go!" The van slowly comes to a stop. Is he actually going to let me go, I think to myself? When the van takes off a few seconds later, I jerk forward again and realize that he was only stopping at a stop sign. Then he switches the radio on and turns the volume way up, drowning out the sound of my screams. A short while later, he pulls over. When I hear him get out of the van, I grab the only thing back there I can use to fight with, 2 handfuls of candy. As soon as he opens the door, I throw them right in his face, but my aim isn't the best. A few pieces hit him, but most fly past him and land on the ground. As he leaps in the van and crawls toward me, sweat begins to drip down my face, and it mixes with my tears. I start to scream again, but he puts his large sweaty hand over my mouth and stares right into my eyes. He pokes me in the chest with his other hand and warns, "Scream again, and the next time your parents see you, all of your body parts will be displayed in their front yard like lawn ornaments. Got it, you little shit?" I nod my head to let him know that I understand. My heart is beating so fast now that I think I may have a heart attack and die right here. He removes his hand from my mouth and grabs the rope and tape from the box. After he places a piece of the black tape across my mouth, he tells me to turn around, and he pins me down with his knee while tying my hands behind my back with the rope. A moment later, I hear the door slam, and we start to drive again. When we arrive at the place he is taking me to, he drags me out of the van by my feet and through some cold, damp grass to a door. I think it leads to a basement. I can't see because it's pitch black when we enter the room, but the floor feels like cement. My leg bumps against something as he continues to drag me across the floor. I try to adjust my eyes to the darkness, but it's impossible. When he finally turns a light on, I scream in horror, but no sound can escape the tape covering my lips. Laying before me, propped up on a couch in the corner of the basement, are Mr. and Mrs. Miller. They appear to be sleeping, but they are tied up like I am, and I think they may be dead. Mrs. Miller has a large cut on her forehead, and it's bleeding heavily, and Mr. Miller has a hole in his chest. It looks like he was shot or stabbed. He warns me once again not to scream before removing the tape from my mouth. "I'll let you two chat. This'll be your last conversation, so you better enjoy it," he says, cracking up with laughter. Then Jonathan, if that's really even his name, leaves and heads upstairs. I'm not sure what he was talking about when he said "you too," but I just assume that the man is crazy. I search the room for a way to escape. I can hear him talking to someone up there, or maybe he's talking to himself again like he was in the van. "Psst, Psst! Hey, are you okay? A voice asks me from somewhere across the room. I frantically look around, trying to find the person that the voice belongs to. I spot a boy hiding beside a washer in a dark corner of the basement. He looks terrified. When he makes his way into the light, I recognize him. His name is Levi. He lives in my neighborhood. We're not friends. He's a few years older than me, maybe 12 or 13, but I've seen him around. Yeah, I'm okay, but we have to get out of here. How did you end up down here anyway? I whisper. I've been here since last night. That crazy asshole up there snatched me up when I got off of the after-school bus yesterday. He was driving around in the Miller's van, offering candy to little kids like some creep. I figured he stole it, so I told the kids to piss off, and then I told him to get the hell out of there or I was going to call the police, and that's when he grabbed me. Did anyone see what happened? I asked, hoping that someone is out there looking for him. No, I don't think so, but this dude is crazy. My brother Joe just told me the other day that some guy he had a problem with was coming home soon. I think this may be that same person. But don't worry, I'm almost free. He turns around to show me that he's cut almost all of the way through the ropes that are restraining him. He's holding a small sharp metal clamp in his one hand. Where did you get that? I ask. I took it off of the dryer hose over there, he tells me, motioning to the corner where the dryer is. Was he in jail? I ask, not sure if I really want to know the answer. No, he wasn't in jail. He was admitted to the nut house a couple of years ago for trying to hurt Joe's girlfriend, he tells me just as he finishes cutting through his ropes. Then I stand up and turn around so that he can start on mine. Listen, I have a plan to get us out of here. We have to jump him. He can take one of us on at a time, but he won't be able to fight off both of us. One of us needs to cut off the power. The box is right over there, he says, pointing to a gray metal box on the wall across the room. The basement door opens, and I hurry up and sit back down while Levi scurries back over to his hiding place in the dark corner beside the washer. I hold my hands tightly behind my back, pretending that I'm still tied up. Levi didn't cut my ropes all of the way, but he loosened them enough that I think I can get free when I find a way to escape. Jonathan slowly makes his way downstairs, and once he makes it to the bottom, I see that he's holding a knife in his hand. He waves it back and forth and announces, "You'll be the first little piggy to die, you spoiled little brat." Then he places the knife down on a round coffee table and strolls over to where Levi is hiding. He grabs him by the collar of his shirt and holds him up into the air. His hands are behind his back. He's pretending to still be tied up too. I wait, holding my breath because I'm too scared to make a sound. Then I realize this is our chance. So I pull the ropes the rest of the way off as I tiptoe across the room to the power box and flick the switch. Seconds later, I hear Jonathan scream, "You little bastard!" Then Levi yells out, "Jump him!" So I rush over to where they are next to the washer and swing the rope wildly through the air until it makes contact with someone's neck. I hope that it's Jonathan and not Levi. I pull with both hands as tight as I can. I hear choking, then something slams into me, crushing me up against the wall. My head starts to hurt immediately, along with my chest. I slide to the ground, dizzy and out of breath. "You goddamn weirdo," I hear Levi yell, followed by his footsteps racing up the stairs. Jonathan's loud booming voice replies, "You won't get away, you little shit." Then he darts up the stairs after him. I lay there for a while, trying to catch my breath. When I finally have enough strength to stand up, I slowly make my way upstairs, gripping tightly onto the banister. As soon as I exit the basement, I make out what I think is a window in the kitchen. When I walk over to it, I see that it's covered with newspaper, just like the windows on the doors in the back of the van, and it's also nailed shut. I could break it, but I don't know where Jonathan is right now. He could be watching me for all I know, and I don't know if I'm fast enough to outrun him. "Where are you, little brats? You see, this is what happens." This is what happens when your own parents pay more attention to the neighborhood brats than their own son. They sent me away to that nut house, but I didn't belong there. I try to follow his voice around the room so that I have an idea of where he is. Then I hear Levi call out, "That's exactly where you belong, you crazy asshole. Why did you try to hurt Ashley?" "Wait, you know Ashley?" Jonathan asks excitedly. I follow their voices to the living room. I see the front door and decide that the only way I can make an escape is to try to get to it. While Jonathan is awaiting a response from Levi, I dart toward the door. When I'm almost there, I feel pain in my left arm, right above my elbow. Jonathan snagged me with the tip of his knife. Blood soaks the sleeve of my jacket, but I don't stop. I make it to the door only to find out that it's locked. When Levi doesn't reply to Jonathan's question, he continues. Ashley was my next-door neighbor. My parents used to babysit her when she was a little girl. They would buy her gifts all of the time, take her places with us. It was like she was a part of the family. They would have done anything for her. They treated her better than they treated me, their own son. All I ever got from them was whoopings and constantly being ignored. "Sounds like they knew you were crazy since the beginning," Levi yells back at him with a laugh. That remark makes Jonathan really angry, causing him to go on a hunt searching for Levi. When he heads back downstairs to the basement, I figure this may be my only other chance to get away. I quickly grab a chair from the dining room and smash through one of the living room windows. As I begin to climb out, I hear him racing back up the basement stairs. My left arm was already in pain before, but now the pieces of glass stuck in it don't help. I fall onto the lawn, and then a moment later, I hear ear-piercing screams. I peek back inside and see Jonathan repeatedly stabbing Levi in the chest. I run as fast as I can down the block to Mr. Keller's house. Right after he closes the door behind me, there's a loud crash against it. Then I hear Jonathan's enraged screams. "You thought you could get away, you little shit? Why are you running from me? I thought you wanted some treats. Well, here you go. I've got a treat for you." The next thing I know, glass is shattering and a brick is flying through the window. Mr. Keller grabs me by the hand, rushes me down the hallway to the kitchen, and shoves me underneath the sink cabinet. Just as he's about to close the cabinet doors, we can hear the click of the front door being unlocked. I look up at him and see all of the color drain from his face. "Stay as quiet as you can," he whispers before shutting the cabinets, leaving me in absolute darkness. I hear a lot of loud noises and wrestling around. Then the one sound that I'll never forget is Mr. Keller's final painful cries that fade away with wheezing. Once it stops, I hear someone walking around until the cabinet doors swing violently open. Jonathan yells, "It's your turn, you little." He's cut off by the sound of police sirens coming down the street. When I look up, I see the lights illuminating the whole interior of the house, including his yellow-tinted, plaque-covered teeth. Jonathan runs away just as the police bang on the front door. They search both Mr. Keller's and the Miller's house, but Jonathan is gone. Levi is dead. He was stabbed to death and found sitting on the couch, propped up between Mr. and Mrs. Miller's dead bodies. So the lesson that I learned from all of this is that when your parents tell you not to take candy from strangers, you'd better listen. You're better off going to the store and buying your own, because you never know. It could be Jonathan still driving around, handing out some free candy. Subscribe for new original stories 3 times a week. See you next time on
Nina's Nightmares.
Really? You're supposed to click the like button, not me. Ugh.